I'll come you back from the constituency. And I hope you had a very good engagement with the communities.
On Tuesday, 3rd October 2023, members of Parliament implored government to use the opportunity to host the 36th edition of the Africa Cup of Nations in 2027 to embark on enhancing the quality of sports facilities.
It will give us an opportunity to bring infrastructural development in roads, sports sector, and we have been looking towards this as a Parliament of Uganda. Many colleagues have stood up here and spoken and encouraged government to build stadiums across the regions that we have in this country. I was so happy that this time round, Akibwa, Cheka will have the opportunity to be built as regional stadiums.
Winning the bid and preparing AFCON, they are totally different. In 2019, Cameroon won the bid, but due to its unreadiness, the AFCON was taken to Egypt. So when I look around and realize the situation our country is in, especially with the sports facilities, I get some anxiety.
We promised to have 3 international stadiums, each country. And this is because in event of events that one fails, then the 2 can still have the 6 stadiums that are required. We already have Mandela National Stadium. Therefore, as a minimum requirement, we would need to do 2 more other stadiums, and they don't have to necessarily be 40,000 seaters. They could be 20 or 15,000 seaters.
As the Minister of Education and Sports, we have a plan of constructing regional stadiums. We need to look at having a sports fund. We need to look at how do we get to tax these betting companies. Like you've correctly said, what's happening in Kenya. This will help us to raise money to develop infrastructure across the country.
Colleagues, I made a commitment on behalf of the country. And in terms of financing all the required, items and facilities for AFCON. So we shall work together very closely with the Committee on Education and Sports. We are going to ensure that indeed that money is provided.
During the sitting, the First Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for East African Affairs, Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga, said domestication of the East African Community Mediation Agreement of 2000 is on track to facilitate payment of terminal benefits to former employees of the defunct East African community.
As a minister addressing this challenge, the heads of state of the former partner states of the defunct EAC signed the East African Mediation Agreement on 14th May 1984, conclusively deal with the division of assets and liabilities of the former EAC, including payment of the benefits. Interestingly, Mr. Speaker, Uganda made 2 attempts to domesticate this agreement. One in 1990, a bill was published but never brought to the House for consideration. The second was in 2004. Another bill was printed, but again, it was not brought to the House. However, the government revoked the provision of the Pensions Act, Cap 2281, later to be amended by the Pension Decree of number 6 of 1978. Now the Pensions Act 286, Laws of Uganda, to safeguard the pensionable rights of the former employees of the defunct EAC. The formula adopted in the calculation of the pensions, gratuity, and other benefits did not in any way deviate from the formula provided under the EAC Pension Act. Challenges are the following: the lack of readily available, authentic, and verifiable documents, taking into account the time lag. This matter has been handled by different stakeholders: the EAC Secretariat, Public Service, Attorney General, Bank of Uganda, Auditor General, DPP, Finance, Administrator General, Courts of Judicature. Is really handled by so many people. Sometimes there are multiple claims, some are not genuine, but we shall sort them out.
Joseph Mayanja, Chameleon.
On Wednesday, 4th October 2023, musicians under their umbrella body, the Ugandan National Musicians Federation, petitioned Parliament calling for the expeditious amendment of the Copyright and Neighbouring Acts of 2006.
The petitioners are not just contributors to the creative industry, but are also contributors to the economy. And with the existing legal framework for distribution of revenue collected from callback tunes, which disadvantages the artists as most of the revenue benefits the telecom companies rather than the artists who should benefit more from their works. Right, Honorable Speaker, the petitioners aver that in order to encourage creativity and innovation, and as a way of growing the creative industry, the following proposals ought to be put in consideration by the Executive and Parliament while amending the Copyright and Neighbouring Rights Act. Revision of the charges for callback tunes to ensure a fairer split of the revenue collected from the callback tunes in the percentage of 60% to be retained by the artist and 40% to be remitted by both government and telecom companies.
In the sitting, the State Minister for Energy, Honorable Sidronius Okasai, maintained government's stance against subsidizing pump prices and instead fronted the concept of e-mobility to permanently resolve rising fuel prices.
We wish to, as a ministry, we emphasize the continuity and assuring the supply to control hoarding. And then intermediate is moving to e-mobility. And this one we have got to emphasize and support the development of our electric buses like the Kira.
Also in the sitting, MPs called for improved teachers' welfare as Uganda celebrated the World Teachers' Day.
This day is dedicated to raising public awareness on teachers' issues to enable recognition of their special value in our lives. Sustainable Development Goal 4 requires us as a nation to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote life learning opportunities for all targets. We rely on our teachers to move this agenda forward.
We must not forget about the welfare of the teachers. In most times, when I talk about this, I know it's going to raise a lot of issues, and this is issue which we have been talking about in this house here. But it still remains a challenge.
I have a problem with the teachers, especially in my constituency of Shema North. So many of them were interviewed, and they passed the interviews to be deployed in various schools. But many of them have not been deployed. I wish to request the minister to come up with a statement because they are harassing us in the constituencies.
The House Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry called for the termination of the contract of the China-based Helmsman Quality and Technology Services Limited.
Right, Honourable Speaker, specifically on HQTS, the committee observed that the eligibility criteria required for a successful company to be contracted was not followed in the pre-qualification process by the technical committee, evaluation committee, while giving this contract. The committee also observed that HQTS didn't have office in India, both India and Dubai, even in Uganda, which are all mandatory requirements, Mr. Speaker, sir. And Right Honourable Speaker, specifically for HQTS, the committee submitted this recommendation that UNBS should terminate the contract with HQTS. The second recommendation, Honourable Speaker and colleagues, the committee recommended that DPP should investigate the circumstances under which HQTS was awarded this contract, because it was awarded fraudulently, Mr. Speaker, sir.
There are challenges in UNBS, that one we shall agree. Now, what we are going to do as the ministry is to cause a meeting, I think, with the board, because the board is supposed to oversee the implementation of some of these actions. Now, the chairman of the board is still insisting that EAA is not credible enough, but still insists that a country can have one company to inspect. Like Tanzania is having one company, Kenya is having one company. So he gave me that example and said Uganda can also have. But let it be in good terms, well procured.
On Thursday, 5th October 2023, Kampala Capital City Authority and the Ministry of Education and Sports made an intervention on 2 city schools over improper disposal of waste.
It was confirmed that wastewater from the kitchens and the surface runoff was channeled outside the schools via pipes and channels from the schools. Both schools had septic tanks and soakaway pits for sewage. However, excess water from rain is released outside the school, which equally causes discomfort and harm to the community. The following recommendations were made. Stop releasing any water outside the school during rainy season. We advise to harvest most of the rainwater. School cooks should stop discharging wastewater and solid waste into waste channels.
Kampala City Council also has huge drainage channels that pass through, and some of them are in people's compounds, and then discharges the people living in those other areas. We were told that channel comes all the way from Najanankumbi, and some of the people are using those channels now as an outlet for their waste. Kampala City Council needs to do more in terms of moving around to ensure that people actually dispose of waste in the proper manner.
During the sitting, legislators expressed differing opinions on a proposal urging government to build more remand homes in all regions of Uganda.
Observation on the few and yet overcrowded remand homes. On page 5, we have provided the numbers that are being hosted in these remand homes and how they exceed that is intended for the capacity of the homes. And our recommendation as a committee is that government, through the Ministry of Gender, build more remand homes for all the regions of the country and expand the existing in the light of the increase in population of the country.
We all know that our children are very precious to us, and when they conflict with the law, the best place to protect them for rehabilitation is a remand home. Right, Honorable Speaker, I therefore support fully the committee on the recommendation that government should build more remand homes across the country.
What drives children to conflict with the law? I would have expected that we should be able to deal with the problem at source. Right now, if you move on the streets of Kampala, you see a lot of street kids, and these are people who end up being criminals. So what are we doing to transform such children and then invest in remand homes?
In the context of expansion and new remand homes, I would request that we really do not go this route, because on average we have about 1,200 children who are in a rehabilitation center. In most of the remand homes, at one point you will find less than 200. So the best mechanism is how to reintegrate the children back at home rather than expanding the remand home.
I wish you a very happy independence, and House adjourned to Tuesday at 2 p.m.